In this video, I'll share with you reasons why your student visa could be denied and what you can do about it to turn that situation around. So listen, this sucks. This is sad. Like, you've put in all of that work to make sure you get into school. You've hustled your way to get like funding and, get all the proof of funds and all of that. And now you applied for your student visa or study visa and it was denied. And that is terrible. And I just wanted to first say that because like that happened to my family member and I know how hard that time was for her, and it's crazy. I don't think anyone should go through that. Okay. But in today's video, I'll share with you what you can do to prevent such a situation if if you've not applied, and also if you're already in that situation, what you can do, when next you're applying to make sure you get that student visa. Okay, let's jump right into it. So reason number one is inadequate ties to your home country. So this is basically a fancy way of saying the visa officer, whoever is reviewing your application, believes you have intent to stay in the country you're applying to. Basically, you're applying to study in Canada, but the visa officer believes that you do not have any intention of leaving Canada. Speaking of Canada, there was a time I applied to visit Canada, and this was the reason my visa was denied. Like, it's crazy. Just visit, and I was already in the US, studying in the US. To me, this just didn't make sense. I was in my first year studying at Yale. Why will I leave the US just remain in Canada for the rest of my life? That doesn't make any sense. But hey, these things don't make sense most times, okay? But I was denied that time, but that wasn't a student visa. That was a visit, like a visitor category type of visa. But back to the point, one of the big reasons why a lot of international students are denied, maybe this is for the UK, Canada, US, the big reason is you do not have a lot of ties to your home country. Basically, they believe there's a possibility you would want to remain in Canada, or you would want to, live permanently in the US. Now, this is not a bad thing to want to live permanently in the US or in Canada, but always remember that a student visa is not an immigrant visa. So you need to prove to them that your intent, like your intention, is not to live there permanently, even though you may end up living there permanently, but you still need to prove that the intention as at the time you're applying for that student visa is not to remain there. Now, what are the things you can do to show that you have ties to your home country? These days, on a normal day, I would have said like you have your mom, you have your dad, maybe in Nigeria. In my case, my mom is in Nigeria, my entire family is in Nigeria. That on a normal day is enough tie to your home country. But these days, with the whole Japa movement and the way a lot of people, from Nigeria have been moving to all these countries, I have noticed with a couple of friends and clients that I've worked with, like, that is not enough reason or enough evidence that you have ties to your home country. So your mom being there is not enough evidence these days. Or your daughter or your child, your son, being in Nigeria or in your home country is good evidence. But I'm not saying you should go study abroad and leave your baby in your home country. No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, these days, because of everything that has happened in the past couple of years, having your mom in Lagos is not enough to show ties to your home country. But things like property could also be a way you can show ties to your home country. If you have a husband or wife or partner, not like a boyfriend or something, but like something that is like, you have a marriage certificate, that kind of thing, and that person is not traveling with you immediately, that person is still in your home country. Those are different ways you can show you have ties to your home country. These days, mom is just not enough from what I've seen, and I may be wrong, correct me in the comments, but from all that I've seen in the past 1 or 2 years, even like, my family member too, like that wasn't just enough. So you need to show a bit more, like landed property, like a spouse, like your husband, wife, and also things, and also like your daughter, your child, your son. Those are ways you can show that you have proof. Also, if you are like if you're applying to the US during the interview, they'll kind of try to hint it. One of the questions they ask me is, so what will you do with this degree? Something like that. And that at the time, I used that as an opportunity to show them I've done my research and I have plans for how I'll use this degree. I said something about that. I have seen a lot of people in my industry, when they go for this MBA degree, they come back to work for the company and they get very senior roles. And that's kind of something I'm eyeing. That's something I really want. I want to get these very senior roles at my current company after I graduate from the MBA program. And they were like, okay. So they may not ask you directly, do you have ties to Nigeria or Ghana? They will kind of ask you other questions. And if they sense the slightest bit, and this is for the US, but Canada also has their ways of reviewing your documents and trying to see if you would return. I don't know what I did in my Canada visitor visa application, but that was the reason why my visa was declined at the time. So that's what you can do. Show a bit more than my mom lives in Lagos type of situation. And if show a bit more like property, spouse and wife or husband, that would really help. So another reason why your visa could be denied is you do not have a lot of funds or sufficient funds, basically insufficient proof of funding. So one of the things you need to know is, even like when you are going to school abroad, when you're going to study abroad, you need to show proof. You need to show proof of the total cost of attendance. And I have explained so many times on this channel what that means. The cost of attendance is tuition plus living expenses. So you need to show proof of the total cost of attendance, not just your tuition. You need to show proof of how you pay tuition, how you pay your fees, how you pay your living expenses like your rent, transportation, books. And usually what the visa office or consulate or embassy, what they want to see is evidence of that amount that the school has published, as the cost of attendance. So what do I mean? Now, when you apply to schools and you go to their website, you can see their estimates of what it will cost for you to study in that school for maybe 1 year or 2 years. So what that would have, like your tuition, your fees, your insurance, your books, your average rent, that will have that. Now, the reality is, let's say that estimate on the school's website totals like $60,000 per year. The reality is you may not need more than $40,000 because you know how to manage. You are not going to live in a fancy student apartment. You're going to kind of like cut your coat according to your cloth, something like that. But when you are showing proof to the visa office, you need to show proof of the entire $60,000 per year, not the $40,000 you believe in reality you need. You need to show proof of that estimate the school has. So once you're able to show that, you're fine. And if the problem is you don't have a lot of funding, you didn't get a lot of scholarships, you didn't get student loans, I really recommend that you apply to scholarships that fund students in your field all over the world. Try to see, I'll put a link to my list of 500 plus fully funded scholarships and fully funded programs. I'll put that link in the description. Just click on that and check for scholarships there. 500, I think it's more like 700 at this point, but there's so many options for you. Check and start immediately applying to scholarships, applying to fully funded programs, such that when you're reapplying for your visa, you have something else to show, that on how you will pay for your education. So I'll put that link in the description. Please grab that and check for scholarships, check for fully funded programs, hustle your way and get all you need to be able to show proof of funds. So scholarships for sure. Also apply to student loan options. I have Prodigy's link in the description. Apply to Prodigy and see if that works out. But don't just apply to one loan provider. Apply to others as well. Apply to Empower. If Quorum works with your school, apply as well, just so you can increase your chance of getting your loan approved. And that way you can use your loan approval letter as proof of funds. Another thing I have mentioned on this channel is sponsorship letters. You can get a sponsorship letter from your friend, your neighbor, your enemy, your husband, your mama, your dada. You can get a sponsorship letter from anyone, your boss, your colleague. They can write you a sponsorship letter. And maybe in another video, I should share my experience with sponsorship letters. And there's so many people, those that I know and those I didn't know. Oh, story for another day, that wrote me sponsorship letters. And I'm very grateful to those people till today. Without them, I wouldn't have gone to Yale. I wouldn't have come to the US because there was no way I could show proof of funds at the time. So you can get a sponsorship letter from these people and use that for your visa application when you're reapplying or when you're applying from beginning. So another reason why your student visa could be denied is you are applying for your visa late. So if the program has already started or is going to be starting in like 2 weeks time, it's kind of too late for you to just be starting your visa application process. So, and I know this is a problem, especially if you think about the US and the visa dates struggle right now. This has been a problem for a lot of people. But sadly, this is one other reason why your student visa could be denied. You are in the process of applying for a visa when the school, the program has either started or is about to start. If that's the case, for this one, I just don't know what you can do other than to try to apply early. Try your best. Once you get your admission offer and you accept, get started. If the school doesn't reach out to you within 1 week, reach out to the school, talk to them. You want to start your visa application process. Of course, you cannot start too early as well for many countries. I think you can't start earlier than 6 months or something for most countries. You cannot start too early, but once you are able to start, once you hit that date where you can start applying, get started on time. For the US right now, for many countries like Nigeria, a lot of students are even unable to get visa interview dates, and as a result of that, they end up having a visa interview date that is too close to when their program is starting, and that's caused a lot of problems for people, at least in the last 1 year. So try your best to start early where possible, but sometimes I understand it's out of your control, but where possible, start early. So another reason your visa could be denied is that you are inadmissible. For different reasons, some people are just considered to be inadmissible to, say, Canada, to the US, and this is usually because of things like maybe you've committed a crime before, maybe you weren't even, maybe you were not guilty, but for some reason you were recorded as part of that crime. Maybe you've been involved in fraud. It's just all these like reasons why you could be inadmissible, and sometimes you could be unaware. So make sure you're checking for where your name ends up, or a name that sounds or that reads like yours, and all of that. I doubt they'll make mistakes, because if that's the case, I have a very common name. But anyway, the point is, just make sure you are not being your visa application isn't being denied because you are inadmissible. You want to know that information if that's the case, and you want to start working on clearing your record before you reapply. So another reason your visa application could be denied is because you cannot answer certain questions about your program, and this is like a bonus tip, and mostly for those countries that require you to do an interview, a visa interview, as part of the application process. So for those countries like the United States, where you are required to do a visa interview, you want to make sure you have your answers and you do not sound rehearsed, but you still have, what you're saying, and if they ask you any questions about the school, the program, sometimes for the US interviews, they will ask you random things like, why do you like Boston? Why did you choose a school in Boston? In my head, I'm like, duh, I just chose a school. Like, why do I care whether it's Boston versus, New York, or like, who cares? But they could ask you such a question and be prepared to answer why you think, Boston, or why you think this school, why you think University of Chicago is the right one, why you think this program. Just think about all the questions they can ask you. What will you do while you're in school? What will you do after school? Always think about these many questions they can potentially ask you. And if you want me to share my experience, what they've asked me before, and whatever, as people that I've worked with and my friends. Put a comment below and I'm happy to share a video where I talk about some of those questions so you can prepare. But prepare yourself for all those questions. They can ask you something that you think this is not related to visa. They can ask you, have you been to Boston before? Oh, why do you think you like Boston? Why do you think you like this place? You have to prepare for the kind of responses you will give. So please, today, either put a comment below, let me share some of these questions that I've had experience with, or go to all these forums online. There's so many visa forums online where people, come, where you can basically see questions that they have asked other people that are applying to that country, and you can practice with those questions. So that's it for this point. All right, my friend, I hope you found today's video helpful. Just know that I'm rooting for you, and this is hard. When this happened to my sister, because that's a family member, when this happened to my sister, it was devastating for all of us. She had put in a lot of work to apply to schools and all of that, and this happened. But I just want to encourage you by saying that she later got her visa, and she traveled and she's studying now. But just know that this is just one more bump, along the way, and you will get through it. You will get through it, and you go through the whole application process, you go through funding, you will get through this one too. And your dream of going abroad to study will happen, and it will happen this year. Okay, can I get an amen? But it will happen. Just hold tight and let me know if there's any way I can help. Hope you found today's video helpful. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.